Hello guys, we're back. This again. If you managed to get through the waffle that was my movies that make me cry, sorry I'm having a bit of a shuffle. Today we have list special effects that blew your mind, and we're going to go right back to my childhood for this, folks. So for the one that made the book, is that blurring? It's The Matrix. I didn't list The Matrix even though it was incredibly impressive. There are lots of movies that did not make my list, even though I know they're very impressive, but I wanted something that had a real, like, I watched it and was like, wow. And I mean, there's some stuff now that is wow, but we've kind of seen it done before, so yeah, I haven't included things like that. So this is things that generally I saw and even got removed from following the story because I was so ridiculously impressed with what I was looking at. Or some of them are movies that I grew up with and just was transfixed by as a child. So some of these, if you're of the younger generation, you probably won't have seen. So here we go. So I have got 5 special mentions. Firstly is District 9, which if I am asked of the one movie I want to see a sequel to more than any other, it is District 9. I want to see what happened afterwards. That Rose was left on her doorstep. I want to know what happened. Won't tell you anything about the story, but it was just so immersive. The characters were so out there, so different, but so you felt connected to them, and that's quite hard to do, so that's a special mention. 300, because it just looked so incredibly different, and what's not to love about a load of buff chests running around the place. Sin City, because the style is something I hadn't seen anything like at that time. Sin City has everything for me. It has the music, it has it's not animation. The actual style of filmography in that, cinematography, is just, you know, the black and white with the flashes of red. Beautiful. I love the film noir narration. It's just incredible. I spent so long looking at it thinking this is beautiful. I had massive posters on my wall. Just stunningly gorgeous to look at. Terminator 2, because they had some effects in there that I'd never seen anything like before, and when they happened my jaw was on the floor. It was like, Jesus Christ. I'm not the biggest fan of sci-fi as a rule, but you cannot help but be impressed by some of the effects in Terminator 2. Silent Hill is the last of my special mentions. This isn't a movie I think that gets enough credit. I think it's one of the best video game movie adaptations out there for getting the feel of the game and some of the completely warped characters like the nurses. I never thought they would manage to get that, but they did. But really, the main character that I was so impressed by in the movie was Pyramid Head, and there's one specific scene where he picks a person up and holds them with one hand and de-gloves their entire body. He just pulls their skin off. And I'm like, oh my God. I was so impressed with the special effects, and the fact they managed to translate a really weird, messed up game into reality, and it looked like I expected it to. Actually, like I never expected they could, but I was very impressed. So my top 10, guys. At number 10 comes in The Fly. Now this is the remake, obviously with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. That was just awe-inspiring to me. I saw it as a child. Everyone knows the funny story that knows me of the extended sex scene, which my mother made my father get down on his knees on the floor, that it's not going anywhere rude. And fast forward the VCR with its finger, because there was no remote control at that time, to get past it because the sex was going on too long for my young innocent eyes, and then we just watched it all in fast motion. I wanted to die. But yes, The Fly, so sad, so gross in parts. The special effects in that were incredible. Fully immersive. Love the character Seth bundle, love the relationship. As a matter of fact, they're one of my favourite movie relationships, are those two. I mean, if you can love someone when that happens to them and they look that way and just do the ultimate for them in the end, you've got some strong stuff there. Number 9 is Saving Private Ryan. It's obviously that opening scene on the beach. When I saw that in the cinema was just deathly silent, and all, you know, the surround sound and all the noise was going off. I remember when it finished and the credits went up, everyone sat in complete silence. I think we were all just shocked, both at the effects that was shown in that opening scene, and it really, we know what happened, but when you see it in front of your eyes and you see just the waste of life, you see all these young men being cut down and not even getting the chance to get off boats, and it's really, really upsetting, that scene. But the special effects in it were just, one thing happened and you were trying to get over it, and then something else happened. It was just carnage. But when you watch a movie as a horror fan and there's special effects like that, you're like, what way to put it, you love it because it's not real. But in this case, what's being portrayed really happened, so it was difficult. I found it a very difficult movie, but a very important movie. But Jesus, that opening scene was so impressive. Number 8 is an odd one. You won't all have seen this. It's a French movie called Irreversible. This has got Monica Bellucci in. It's got a very famous scene of SA. I'm sure you know what that means. We can't say it on YouTube. But it's another scene. This movie is kind of like Memento, where it's kind of told back to front, irreversible. Also in that actions are irreversible. And it's an incredible movie, but it's very difficult to watch. That extended scene goes on for a long time, but it very much puts across the reality of the situation rather than titillation for the audience, which I appreciate, even though it was difficult. There's a scene in this with a fire extinguisher in a club where someone is seeking down the person that did this to this woman, and he thinks he's found him, and he takes to this guy's face with a fire extinguisher. Flipping hell. It's one of the most disturbing scenes in any movie I've ever seen. Now, if you do not want to watch the movie, although I will tell you it's a fantastic movie, although difficult, that scene's on YouTube. You can look up fire extinguisher scene in Irreversible if you want to do it to yourself. It's so realistic, I can't get my head around how they done it. I'm watching it thinking, how and under God have they done that? Also, the soundtrack that's played over it was researched. It was 2 guys that are famous for, I can't remember their name, I'll put it in when I'm editing. They researched noises that affect the human psyche and that make you feel unsettled and disgusted and nauseous, and used that in the soundtrack, so that in a way adds to what you're watching and makes it even harder to watch. But the special effects, my God, they're good. Irreversible, number 8. Number 7 is Avatar. Obviously the effects in both movies are fabulous, but the first time we got to see the avatars, and we'd just never seen anything like it before, how big they were and how lifelike they were and how they looked like the people that were inhabiting them. Just the colour, everything about it was just stunning, beautiful. I don't really need to talk much about that, but just that feeling the first time you saw them. Number 6 is Jaws. Now you may think, Jaws, the effects are terrible. If you saw Jaws back in the day, now I didn't see this when it came out. It came out, I believe, in 1975. I saw it, I'm going to say it was early to mid-80s. I'm going to say mid-80s I saw it. I would have been in single digits when I saw it. And I was so impressed. I was scared shitless. Who can go into water without you just can't. I thought the effects were incredible. The head, where the scene where they go underwater and a severed head pops out, scared the bejesus out of me when I first saw that. I think I first saw it in my granny's house when I went visiting one Saturday. Same place as I saw E.T., same place that I saw Gremlins. So, big up Granny. So yeah, I can't imagine seeing this in 1975 when it came out. The effects must have just been incredible. But yeah, Jaws, big impression on me as a child. Number 5 is a very old one. Again, I saw this as a child. It came out many years before I saw it. If I say Ray Harryhausen to you, some of you will go, who? Some of you, like I know Anthony from Fever Dreamland Theatre is a big fan also. Ray Harryhausen was one of the pioneers of stop motion animation. What you would watch now, you might look at and think that's really jerky, that's crap. Back then, the films, the one that I'm going to mention is Jason and the Argonauts. He did like Sinbad movies and things like that. But in Jason and the Argonauts, there were 2 specific things that really always stuck in my mind. You'll know what they are if you're aware of Ray Harryhausen. One is a skeleton army, where we have a bunch of skeletons that rise to their feet with swords and shields and fight like the real men in this. We think these are just corpses, skeletons, but they get up and they fight. And it's the first time you see it, you cannot believe what you're looking at. I was a child when I saw this and I was like, oh my God. Also, there was a big massive statue called Talos. I always thought he was called Achilles because the only way they could defeat him was this big like screw lid on his ankle. And when I say a giant, a person was the size of this thing's foot. It was a giant big statue and it made all these creaky noises when it moved. It was like a big metal thing. They also did ones with statues as well. This guy was incredible. And they screwed off this big thing from his ankle and all this oil fell out and that defeated him. So like your Achilles heel. I always had in my mind he was called Achilles because of that, but no, he's called Talos. I looked it up before I did the video. Jason and the Argonauts. I would say there will be clips on YouTube if you look it up if you want to see. Obviously by today's standards it is, you know, very jerky and stuff, but back then when I saw that, transfixed I was. There's lots of other things that he did, but that's just two that stick in my mind. Okay, number 4 is Braveheart. Now, Braveheart is one of my favourite movies. I love it. I am aware that it is not 100% historically accurate, but I feel that the battle scenes in this movie were some of the most realistic that we saw quite early on. Where other battle scenes would cut away, Braveheart didn't. It showed you the slash wounds, the swords going in, it showed you the carnage, and I was there for it. William Wallace was, as like an Irish person, having, you know, your history is very similar to the Scots at that time, and the very famous scene in this movie of the Scots and the Irish banding together. I saw it in a cinema in Belfast and the whole cinema started applauding when that scene happened. Because it was so unexpected. The Scots thought the Irish were going to fight against them, but at the last minute they turned and fought with them. And there's that famous line the guy said, in order to speak to an equal, an Irishman is forced to speak to God or something, or he said Jesus Christ. Anyway, I can't remember, it's funny.
Or do you converse with the Almighty?
In order to find his equal, an Irishman is forced to talk to God. Yes, Father.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Yes, I just really love Braveheart. I love the character William Wallace. Again, it's one of the few romantic things that really drew me in. Maybe because Mel Gibson is damn fine in it. But the wedding scene in the forest, I'm getting completely pulled away from the subject. The wedding scene is the most beautiful wedding scene I've seen in any movie, anywhere, ever. It's perfect. But Braveheart is, yeah. The battle scenes in that, incredible. Love it. Number 3 is, and you may think this is weird, Jurassic Park. The first time we saw those dinosaurs, did you also react like I did? Just complete and utter amazement. I remember thinking, now I saw this when it first came out, which a lot of you may have seen it obviously a lot later because you're much younger than me. I saw this when it first came out and we'd never seen anything of this ilk before, nothing close to it. How they moved, there was no jerky motion. It was like, how have they done this? It was like watching these creatures for real. It was the closest we'd ever seen to anything like that, and I think, was it the Diplodocus we saw first? The really tall one with the long necks. Are they Diplodocus? I can't remember. But anyway, that feeling the first time that they round the corner in the Jeep and we see the dinosaurs for the first time blew my mind as a child. I was just flipping out. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So Jurassic Park is my number 3. Anyone that knows me will know what my number 1 is. We don't even need to talk about it. My number 2 is Cabin in the Woods. I will explain that because there's so many other movies that have incredible effects. Cabin in the Woods had so many messed up, I'm going to say effed up, but I'm trying not to swear so much, it's difficult. Cabin in the Woods had so many messed up characters, so many different coming out of the recesses of people's imagination, so much material for other horror movies that I would love to see tied into it. The ending of it's absolutely incredible with the merman. But it's the humour that was injected. I loved watching all these different creations, all these, you know, when they're going down in the lift, all the different things that they see, and just marveling at everything and how amazing everything looked and wanting more of everything that I saw. But that scene when they come down on the lift and it pings and they walk out into the hallway and like a piece of flesh just drops from the floor and makes a big splat. Every time, now when I saw that in the cinema, I laughed out loud. Not many other people did. Am I sick? Perhaps. I remember seeing it. I went on a short break to York, which is my favourite city in the UK. I love York, it's beautiful. I highly suggest it if you ever visit England. If you're from the US or something, go check out York, it's amazing. So I was having a weekend in York and there was a little tiny cinema. When I say tiny, the cinema maybe had 50 seats, maybe not even that actually. And it was 2 doors down from the Premier Inn I was staying in. Or was it Travelodge? I think it was Premier Inn. Anyway, it was a couple of doors down. And I hadn't even heard of it. I wasn't on YouTube. I wasn't really aware what movies were coming out. Because I was one of those that comes out, I go see it. I wasn't really looking into release dates for stuff or anything. And it's like, oh, there's a horror one called Cabin in the Woods. Let's go see this. So I knew nothing about this. And I loved it. When it started, for the first like half hour, it was a bit, young people, cabin, annoying. But once it got beyond that point, once it got to the point where the guy rode his motorcycle off the side of the cliff, I was fully engaged from that point. But that scene where the thing goes ping and the big lump of flesh hits the ground cracked me up. I will never forget that feeling of this is awesome. I love it. Just all this carnage everywhere and they still managed to get a laugh. So Cabin in the Woods is my number 2. My number 1 is going to be the same for so many of you guys out there. Special effects that blew your mind. It has to be the transformation scene from the best werewolf movie in the world, American Werewolf in London. How is it that all these years later we still have not surpassed that transformation scene? That's wrong. I've seen many transformation scenes, I've seen many werewolf movies that I love. I think Dog Soldiers is excellent, but we still haven't surpassed that transformation scene. Everything about it. The first transformation to actually depict it being a painful process, which it would be, allowing us to connect with the individual that's going to turn was just genius. Usually we don't get to do that, it's usually the bad guy. The music that was playing in the background, the juxtaposition of the little Mickey Mouse, everything looking normal. Everything about that scene is perfection. It's movie perfection, it can't be improved upon. And it will always be my number 1 special effect until it's overtaken, but at this ripe old age it has not happened yet. I saw that when I was in single digits. I remember being very embarrassed at certain scenes with Jenny Agutter, Dirty Cow. Yeah, you don't want to watch that with your parents. But yeah, number 1, American Werewolf in London, guys. So that will do me for today. I'm losing my voice. I've recorded 4 videos. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to follow along if you so wish. I know Shan from Rusting Willpower has done quite a few videos with her thoughts on a lot of these lists. If you want to do the same, please feel free. I love to hear what other people think and individual why you think things and that little bit of more personal into things about movies. I love to hear it. So I know some people don't really like to get more personal about stuff, and that 100%, that's probably the more sensible approach, but I love to get to know that little bit more about people and what makes them tick and why they think the things they do. So feel free, guys, to take any of these lists and enjoy them yourself. So thank you for watching. I shall be back sometime soon. Over and out from Lisa Lives.